All right, YouTube, thanks for joining me for another episode, another Spy Shot episode as well. In this episode, we're going to be taking a look at the 2020 Corvette. It's supposed to be a mid-engine car, and as you can see in these upcoming photos, it's going to be drastically different than the Corvette that we have come to know in most recent years. So, onto the spy photos. As you can see, it's got a very short front end compared to the cars that we've seen in the past with a very long rear end. Obviously, this has to go to match the engine shifting from the front of the car to the back of the car. It's a very Ferrari-esque shape. Obviously, Chevy is taking after Ferraris, Lamborghinis, the Ford GT with their mid-engine layout for the new Corvette. It's kind of widely believed that the Corvette has kind of got to the limits of the front-engined rear-wheel drive platform, so that's why they're making this change. As we switch to a more front-end view of the car, you can see what appear to be some very large mirrors, much larger than those on the C7 so far, and it appears that this car has done away with the LED strips, at least the prototype headlights. If you remember the V or the boomerang-shaped LED strips on the C7s, this just appears to have a few individual LEDs in the headlights, but who knows if that might change. Now, this exaggerated camouflage on the hood, I think that's just there to hide the body lines. I can't imagine that they have a window or a hole in the hood like they do with the ZR1, seeing how there really isn't going to be anything there to look at since there's motors in the back. We'll shift around the car now. Got a little bit different wheels than in previous pictures. See these large mirrors again. And here you can see, if you look carefully, mostly in the middle third, kind of where the GM authority tag is, the middle half, I should say, of the bumper, looks to be some very exaggerated air intakes. I'm sure those are going to be mostly for the brakes. Seeing how there is not going to be an engine up front that's going to need all that air, unless they're going to put electric motors up front, which has been rumored in some cases. But as you can see in this picture also, if you look at the steering wheel, it appears that there's going to be a flat top steering wheel. A lot of cars have had flat bottoms for quite a few years, mostly so that you can bring the steering wheel down further into your lap, kind of a more ergonomic driving position. But it appears that the 2020 Corvette, the mid-engine Corvette, is also going to have a flat top. Kind of the explanation that I found is for a smaller diameter wheel, a little more precise turning and things like that, but we'll see. Moving on to the front of the car, a little zoomed in to the front wheel, you can kind of see the exaggerated intakes in the bumper and very large brakes between the rotors and the calipers. Not that we would expect anything different on a Corvette. These appear to be steel rotors. I'm sure they're not going to build carbon ceramics just for a prototype, but it wouldn't surprise me if these in the picture are just off of a C7. Here is another shot. You can kind of see how exaggerated the rear end of the car is, how much longer it is from a rear car. You can imagine that the firewall is probably even with the door line, and so all that room behind there is where the engine and the transmission is going to sit. And we're going to go back to this picture real quick. If you take a look at those rear tires, those are some extremely wide rear tires. Obviously, this is going to be a high-performance car, putting down quite a bit of horsepower, probably more than the ZR1, according to most estimates. That car is putting down, I think, like 650 horsepower at the wheels from the factory, and you can expect the mid-engine Corvette to be 700 plus. The ZR1 runs 335 wide rear tires, and these look like they're probably 355, if not more than that. So it's gonna be quite the tire on the back end of these new Corvettes. We're gonna scroll around to the back of the car now. You can see Chevy is transitioning from the center exhaust in the back of the car. We still have the four tips, but they're spread out to the corners of the car. And you can see the first hit at the new brake lights. These pictures make it look like we're going to have a kind of an L-shaped taillight on these new Corvettes based on the camouflage and how those pieces are kind of sectioned over the car. But based on leaked pictures of the rear bumper, it looks like we're going to stick with a design similar to those on the current car, and it's just going to be an air vent coming out from probably the brakes or air that's been used as downforce for these cars. So that'll be interesting to see how these cars come to fruition. So that, ladies and gentlemen, sums up the available spy shots of the 2020 mid-engine Corvette, or Corvette Zora, as it's been codenamed. If you saw some things that I didn't see in these photos, make sure you comment it down below. If you appreciated what you saw, please leave a like. And if you want to see future updates on the mid-engine Corvette, be sure to subscribe. Thanks.